taking a sip of my coffee at 10 p.m. because that's what free will is. The smoke is getting in my eyes. Anyway, hello. How is everyone doing today? I hope you're all doing well. If you don't know who I am, I go by Fia. I'm an energy and spirit worker and healing arts practitioner. And today I wanted to hop on, do a little catch up, a little musings, personal vlog type of deal. We'll see what happens. Try and avoid my cat burning herself. But yes, hello. How is everyone doing? I'm looking at my fake watch right here. Almost my birthday, probably in a couple hours officially. I'm probably going to maybe do a little ritual. I'm probably going to try and do some sort of ceremony or ritual to mark the entry into my birthday. I always like doing something ceremonial. I love my little rituals. Something renewing and cleansing. Self-care. Just to honor that little threshold. But what I'm really coming on here to talk about is my kind of personal train of thought, musings on self-concept, on identity, on feeling like you're not who you were, but you're not quite sure who you want to be. And this has been a theme that has been coming in cycles for years of my life. Maybe it's because my first house is in Scorpio, if you follow astrology. Who knows? Maybe it's just what's been happening. And this kind of... let me gather my train of thoughts. How do I want to put this? I think this could stand for anyone who is going through any kind of dissolution of the ego, of any kind of struggle with identity, with self-concept, with dark night of the soul, whatever it is you want to call it, however you want to approach it as a frame of reference. Or if you're just ready to make some changes, if you just don't feel like who you were is who you are anymore. I'm just going to put it into perspective of how I am approaching this and some of my own struggles and how I've been relating to this. Because I've definitely been on this up and down journey of, this is what I want. This is what I want in life. This is who I am. This is my personality. This is my identity. All of those things are changeable. They're mutable. But I've definitely noticed a switch recently, more so, where I've realized, okay, the person I am now, the person my friends, like how they describe me, how I approach the world, is feeling a lot less authentic and more performative than it used to be. And also, it's not like always healthy for me. I've realized I've gotten to this point as I've aged and through life experiences that I've become a lot more jaded, a lot more cynical in a lot of ways. I have developed far more trust issues. I just am not quite as idealistic as I used to be. There's also just this part of me that's feeling neglected in terms of when I was younger, I would describe myself as being very sensitive, very gentle, very compassionate. And I think as is what happens with most of us, life happens, difficulties happen. I've been in a lot of situations where I've had my trust broken. I've worked in fields where there's a lot of compassion fatigue and secondhand trauma. And you've just seen the worst of the worst. And the world is like this, and it's hard not to be jaded when the world looks like this. And I've developed this personality of, and it's not all bad. I do think that, I'm a lot more confident than I used to be. I embrace my weird a lot more. I have released a lot of inhibitions I used to have. I'm a lot bolder, a bit more fiery is what people describe me as. And I do admire those parts of myself as well. But sometimes it's almost too much. Part of me also misses that kind of softer, quieter, gentler version of me that maybe wore her heart on her sleeve, had like rose-colored glasses on. And now I'm in this weird place where I don't fully ever want to go back to the old me, and I know I can't, because that's impossible. That's not how life works. But the me that I am existing in now, and as people perceive me, not quite doing it, And even in the external world, a lot of questions about what do I want to do? Where am I going? Lacking a lot of motivation in terms of work and passions and the desire to learn. There's been a bit of, not gonna lie, summer was tough. There's a bit of depression, a bit of health issues going on. So it was much harder for me to explore and create and live authentically when you're just exhausted. Anyway, I'm sharing this because I think a lot of people probably struggle with this at least one point in their life, probably many points in their lives, because that's what being a person is. And I know I'm someone who over intellectualizes everything and becomes very existential very easily. So not everyone might struggle as much as I do with this type of theme. But I've been working with this in terms of I do want to embrace the in-between stage, essentially. Where, yes, life just feels a little bit too tight on me. Right? The life I'm living right now, the way I'm showing up and expressing myself in the world, and how I'm relating to people, just fits a bit too small now. I feel like I'm ready to expand or grow or just switch directions. Not a complete pivot, just who knows? I don't know. That's the whole point of kind of feeling like you're in the dark a little bit. But what I realized was, as I do when I have just an epiphany, it always comes when I'm not expecting it. I was just out there in the garden pulling some weeds, I think. Maybe eating some pieces of mint or Thai basil. I can't remember which. And I got this. The smoke, it keeps going into my eyes no matter where I position it. It smells really good, but I don't want it in my face. Alright, well, guess that's what's gonna happen. So, I was in my garden. Epiphany time. Which is what happens anytime I've been pondering too much and need a mental reset to get out of my own brain a little bit. And so I go do a workout or go garden, do anything outdoors really. And suddenly something will hit me right in the brain. And it was kind of like, hey, if you're feeling in the dark and you're feeling in this like nothing stage, isn't that such a great time to explore with no pressure? You know, you might not know what you want to do, but wouldn't it be great to just try things and see what happens? Maybe learn a skill. Anyway, this is the main theme. The main theme of my ramblings is, oh, if you have no idea who you are anymore, and life feels wrong, and you don't know where you're going, you can't go back to where you've been. Okay. What a low pressure time to be in. There's no pressure on you to figure it out. You can just explore. And this could be as like big of a practice as you want, or even these like little minute details of skills that you feel might come in handy for wherever you're moving on forward to. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be super fun and exciting even. If you feel like it will help you grow and move forward without pressure. And there's a little bit of soul searching there into how do you want to develop, who do you want to become. But there's also this chance to just kind of throw things at the wall and see what sticks, kind of. Maybe start taking up a new language. Have you ever always wanted to move to a different country or a new place? You don't have to do that right away, especially if you don't feel ready for it. But you can start learning the language easily. I mean, it's not easy to learn a language, but it's easy to get started. And I will relate this back to me just to help ground it in a sense, you know, in terms of like practical skills for your life, how you want to move forward. I learned Excel. I mean, I already knew Excel, but I brushed up on my Excel. I took a few different classes, just learning different skill sets, taking on different tasks that it might come in handy, it might not. I do love a spreadsheet though, so I was like, well, this is a great opportunity to refresh my brain and get a practical, down-to-earth skill. This could also be something bigger. And we're talking more esoteric here, of our personality, the way we relate to ourselves and others, our healing journey. We can practice the parts of our personality that we want to bring in, because personality is changeable. It's not stagnant. There's been many studies on this. But in terms of self-concept, okay, so I've been feeling very jaded and cynical, and I want to bring in kind of more of that gentleness and compassion. That doesn't mean I'm going to be gentle and compassionate and eternally understanding 24/7. But I can bring a little bit of the practice into my daily routine. I can maybe do those 5-minute mindfulness meditations, the loving kindness meditations every day. Working more on slowing down when you're stressed out, when things are bringing up triggering subjects for you, and being able to disengage from those environments that caused those reoccurring patterns in the first place. I'm just gonna look at the quote because I think someone else, this embodiment coach, Blood, Bone, and Honey, who I have followed her for a long time, but she said this much more eloquently than me during her like full moon in Leo or new moon in Leo energy transmission. When we're talking about self-concept, she said, acceptance isn't a choice, it's a process unfolding over time. And that's kind of the core of what we're getting at here, is much more eloquently than like, isn't this a perfect time to just throw things at the wall and see what sticks? If you're in that in-between stage, the concept of transformation and change, most of it is unconscious. We're not controlling that. So spending all of your time intellectualizing and trying to figure out where you're going, especially if you feel in the dark, isn't going to make the transformation process go any quicker or easier. But instead, accepting it as a process that changes over time, a process that unfolds over time. So we're bringing things into practice, not because, oh, this is going to immediately make it happen. I'm not going to suddenly feel more compassionate 24/7. I'm not going to feel that self-love 24/7 when something is triggering, when something hurts me, when I'm reactive, when I'm stressed, when I'm heightened, when I feel lost and confused. It's not going to be like a 24/7, this is just how I'm going to feel. It's a practice, it's a skill that you're developing. And over time, it starts changing you. And you change with it. And we don't have to know where we're going. We're just developing the skills to better move with those changes. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to describe or put into words. I think it makes perfect sense for me, though, in terms of who I am and how I feel like I'm becoming. And I fully believe, and this might be my rose-colored glasses, but I think when we start doing that work internally without the pressure of having to perform it or having to feel it or having to have it perfect, it does start opening up the world a little bit, the external environment, to better help you attract and bring in other opportunities that might fit a little bit better to who you are becoming versus who you were. That being said, if you've stuck around with me for this long during my musings, had to take a quick water break, there's a few things where if you feel truly like I am talking very vaguely and you have no idea who you want to become or what traits you want to embody or what skills you want to learn, okay, that's fine. You've gone through an ego death and you're like, Fia, that's too much. I don't know which way is up and which way is down. I created a few very vague but hopefully helpful prompts that supported me when I was trying to figure this out and still support me. When I asked my loved ones how they would describe me, what feels true and what feels like I don't want that. This doesn't mean all flaws are going away. More so, maybe there are parts of yourself that people say that are shocking to you and you just haven't accepted them within yourself. Because we have a skewed perception of self and we have to maybe just kind of rewire our brains to start recognizing that part of ourselves again. And the opportunity to bring more of those parts in that we do love, that we would like to enjoy. And as it takes more space, we grow around it, and maybe the flaws don't feel quite as big. So ask your loved ones, how would they describe you? What traits would they give you? I've done this before. It varies in terms of helpfulness. Not to be sexist, I will say every woman I asked had far more eloquent answers than every man I asked. Second, look at a person you admire. This could be in real life or in fiction, a fictional character, someone from a book. What is one trait that they have that you're like, yeah, that's what I like about them? And how can you start bringing in that trait a little bit more? And to ground this more, this could even just be meditating on it as a concept of doing some somatics of how it feels in your body as you embody this. And then taking a step back if you're feeling reactive or during your daily life. Taking a deep breath and reacting with that trait that you admire. That makes sense. And third, asking yourself, how can I be in service to others? This is the big thing that got me through the summer, especially during times where I felt bad or just very confused, because we're going through all of this and we're talking about dark nights of the soul and ego death and an identity crisis, and so much of it is I. And when we start thinking too much of the I am, it just allows the ego to come back into play all over again, and not always the healthiest ways. So just kind of, let me put it this way. Humans are social creatures. We feel good when we do good. So if we truly want to kind of develop into a higher self-concept, do we need the lower ego involved, the constant I? Maybe we need to quiet that part down a little bit and think of a way we can be in service to others and act on that. Because we all feel good when we do good. It helps us get out of our own way a little bit. It supports ourselves and our moods, and it supports others. And that's what being in the world is all about. That's what spirituality is all about. Doing our best to make everything just a little bit better. Just discover a little bit more. And this could be small. You don't have to go and do Doctors Without Borders, especially if you're not a doctor. But small acts of kindness, small acts of service really help build up the healthy self-identity as well. And they just make you feel good. Anyway, yeah. So those are my 3 little prompts. Ask a loved one. Look at a trait, look at a character or a person that you admire. Think of an act of service you can engage in. Boom. Doesn't solve anything. This is just my rambling train of thought musings of transformation, of being in the void. And what a great opportunity it is to make a little bit of a mess and discover. Now, with that being said, thank you so much if you stuck around this long. Thank you for listening. These lights are starting to give me a little bit of a headache. And I'm feeling that coffee that I made the mistake drinking. But I truly appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here with me today, for being along with on this journey with me. I hope I can be a little part of your path as well. We're all in this together. We're all in this world, just trying to figure things out and make the world a slightly better place for ourselves and for others. And I will see you next time.